Hi everybody, my name is Samantha Miller, and I wanted to come on here to tell you guys a little bit about what I do for work. I currently work at SeaWorld Orlando as an educator associate. Before I get all into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I got into this job in the first place. I love working with people. I always have. From when I started doing theater in high school, from when I worked as a summer camp counselor, and now that I work in theme parks. Honestly, working as a summer camp counselor really prepared me for what I was going to be experiencing where I'm at currently. It helps teach me about patience, about working as a team with my fellow counselors, and about being outside in the heat a lot. But with my love for working with people, I wanted to find a career path that helped fit that best, as well as a college degree that would help fit that, which is why I'm currently attending the University of Central Florida, majoring in hospitality management at the Rosen campus for hospitality. Now let me get into the daily routine of being an educator associate at SeaWorld, but before I do that, I do think it's important to note that I'm not speaking for the brand or the company, I'm just sharing my personal experiences so far. So I usually start my day by getting ready for work, putting on my SeaWorld shirt, getting my name tag on, all that important stuff, as well as making sure that my feet are prepared. So I'm gonna put on my tennis shoes, making sure they have those inserts in them, making sure I have my compression socks and everything else that I need for the day, like a neck fan, for example. It can get really hot out there in the summer, and I don't want to pass out from heat exhaustion just as much as the next person. So I think it's best to have things like a neck fan. I also have an umbrella that has UV ray protection from the sun. That helps a lot. I have a nice hat that I get to wear. I'll show it to you guys. This is my work hat. I wear it to help keep the sun off my face, but it's also nice and breathable. It has these little holes in it to help with that, so I'm not sweating my head off. So I usually start by going to work after I'm all ready. And then when I get there, I clock in at what I call HQ, headquarters. And that's where we go over our daily stuff. We'll have what's called a shift meeting, and they'll go over any new news that we need to know up at the park, like if there's any new animals or if there's any new parades going on, any entertainment information that might affect our positions, stuff like that. They'll inform us of everything so that if a guest has questions later on in the day, we're ready to answer those. After that, we'll get our grids. Our grids are a little paper that will tell us where we're going for the day. So as an educator associate, we rotate every hour from habitat to habitat. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what an educator associate actually does. So I'm one of the people who will stand at each habitat where the animals are and educate about those animals and about certain safety regarding those animals. So, for example, one of the habitats I staff at is Dolphin Nursery at the front of the park. So I'll usually go over there and talk to guests one-on-one about the dolphins in there, tell them some of their names and talk about some of the adaptations that dolphins have. I'll also bring up some important things about our rescue programs and about certain ways that we can help keep our dolphin friends safe out there in the wild, like listening to the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. That makes it illegal to pet, touch, feed, and interact with all marine mammals in U.S. waters, including dolphins, manatees, seals, sea lions, and that's why I like to bring that up at all of those habitats to help inform our guests about why it's so important to follow those rules. It helps keep our mammals safe out there in the wild, our marine mammals, that is. So I'll go up there and I'll talk with them, and then at some locations we have what's called a narration. That's where I go on a microphone. It's one of the microphones that you have right here in your face with the little black microphone doodad. And then I'll talk about the animals and the habitat specifically on the microphone. So usually my narrations will start off by going like this. Hi everyone, welcome to Dolphin Nursery. If you guys look over here, blah 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 blah. And then I'll also say stuff like, hi everyone, welcome to Dolphin Nursery. A few safety reminders for all my friends who are just joining us. Just remember to no knocking, tapping, or hitting those acrylic viewing windows around the area. We also ask that we're not leaning over any of that rock work around the habitat, and that we're keeping all human items on the human side of that habitat. Your phone may be waterproof, but I can assure you it is definitely not dolphin proof. So we're gonna wanna take those pictures from our side of that habitat. Thank you guys so much. And that's what I'll sound like when I'm on the radio, before getting into a good narration talking about a whole bunch of different things. Like at the dolphin nursery, I'll often talk about the different adaptations that they have as mammals that relate us to them. Kind of like how, because they're mammals and we're mammals, we both nurse our young. And then I'll talk about different fun facts about that. Like, for example, dolphins' milk is really fat when it's made of very fatty liquid. It's made of 33% fat, and that's why when it comes out, it's around the same consistency of a milkshake. So the baby dolphins will make their tongue and go, make it into a little straw, kind of like that. And that's going to help them to drink up that really fatty liquid to make sure that they can grow up big and strong, and that helps support their dolphin calves. I'll also talk about important things like how their parents will teach them how to vocalize and forage for food in the wild, stuff like that. And that's just an example of dolphin nursery. There's a whole bunch of different places that I'll be staffing at that I'll be sharing those types of information. I like to break it up into, we have our narrating spots and our non-narration habitats. So all of the habitats in which I narrate at, I'll say things like that over the speaker, and then the ones that I'm not doing narrations at, those are the ones that don't have the microphone. I usually just do one-on-one guest interactions where I'll talk to them in person, kind of like when I'm working at the Gators. I'll talk about how SeaWorld partners with Gatorland, and they'll give us their baby gators, and then we'll help raise them up until they're a little bit bigger, and then we give them back over to Gatorland. Now, I'm not going to say that over a big microphone because that's not a narration spot. I just talk about that one-on-one with some of our guests. So, back to what I was saying, when I first get to work, I get my grid, and that's going to tell me each location that I'll be going to one by one every hour because we rotate hourly. So I might start off at the Stingray Lagoon and then work my way over to the pelicans or the gators or the beluga whales or the dolphin nursery or the pinnipeds, which are seals and sea lions. We're going to be going all around the park talking about those animals with our guests. Another fun place that we tend to work is Antarctica. You'll find us in there talking about the penguins, but fun fact, when we're working in Antarctica, we are there all shift long and it gets cold. Trust me. It's usually around 28 degrees in there. It can get pretty chilly. So we like to wear lots of layers when we're in there. I usually have my gloves, my hat, extra pants. We'll have extra layers of everything to make sure that we are staying nice and toasty. One thing I really like about working for SeaWorld is they have a nice policy when it comes to trying to keep us nice, healthy and safe. They'll remind us to stay hydrated, and they'll come by. Sometimes our supervisors will come by and ask us if we need anything, like our water needs to be refilled or if we need to use the restroom. And I really like that type of environment. It feels like they actually care about us, and I like that. So after going from area to area, we'll have what's called a bump rotation. We'll have one person come and bump out another person so that they can go to the next location. Places like an open water location, like Stingray Lagoon, that's going to be an area where there's open water with animals inside of it. So we have to have someone staffing there at all times. It's actually a part of our AZA accreditation, so our American Zoo Association accreditation. It's for safety purposes to make sure that everyone's doing okay when they're around those areas. So after doing the bump rotation, eventually we'll go to lunch, we'll clock out, we'll clock back in when we're done, and then we'll go to our next location and so forth until we're done for the day. So what do we do when we're done for the day? Usually we'll go back to HQ and we'll return all of those gear that we got at the beginning of our shift. I may have skipped over that, but when we start our shift, we also want to get all of the gear that we need for the day, including our radio, our microphones if we're using the narration system for where we're heading to, and anything else that we might need. Like, for example, some locations have keys that you'll need to carry around so that you can open certain doors that have important equipment that we might need. Like when we're in Antarctica, sometimes we have a little box that we stand on, but that's going to be in a closet downstairs that we use a key to open. So we'll start by getting all that stuff and signing it out so that they know who brought that stuff out into the park that day, and before it gets passed around through everybody. And then at the end of the day, we'll do the same thing. The person closing will bring back all of their gear, including their radio. If they have a microphone for narrations, they'll return that. If they have any keys, they'll put it in the keys area. We put all of that back and then we sign it back in so that they know who returned it at the end of the day. After that, we'll clock back out. We usually say bye to all of our supervisors and friends, or at least I do. I think that's enjoyable. It makes a more happy work environment. And then that's pretty much it. That's my day as a SeaWorld educator associate. If you guys have any questions, drop in the comments. I'd be happy to try to talk about it a little bit more. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great evening. Have a nice day.